We're always hearing about how AI is changing the world, but what does it actually take to keep that world safe? So today, we're going to dive into the secrets of AI security, a field that's moving faster and has higher stakes than pretty much anything else in tech.
It's a pretty wild thought, isn't it? But this isn't science fiction. This is the real, central challenge of securing AI. The threats aren't always some big, loud explosion. Sometimes they're just whispers, these tiny little manipulations in the data that are completely invisible to us, but can cause an AI to go completely off the rails.
And this is the perfect way to think about it. We're not just guarding some static piece of code here. We are protecting a system that learns, that adapts, and makes its own decisions. So yeah, it's way less like building a fortress and a lot more like shielding a mind from bad influences and deception.
Okay, so what makes this so different from the cybersecurity we're all used to? Let's break down the unique problem that AI brings to the table. And you can really see the difference here. On the left, you've got traditional software. It's kind of like a machine with gears on a fixed track. It's predictable. You put in A, you always get out B. But the AI on the right? Well, that's much more like a brain. It learns, it makes its own choices, and because of that, it creates entirely new ways for things to go wrong, brand new attack surfaces that old-school security models just were not built to handle.
So, to tackle this massive new challenge, the security world has developed a pretty solid foundational framework. Let's take a look at the 4 pillars that every secure AI system has to be built on.
These 4 pillars, they're really the bedrock of any AI you can actually trust. You need confidentiality to keep the model and its data secret. You've got to have integrity to make sure it can't be messed with. And of course, availability so it's there when you need it. And crucially, you absolutely need accountability, a clear line of responsibility for every single decision the AI makes. If you're missing even one of these, the system just isn't secure.
All right, let's dig into the first major threat. It all starts with the data, the very food that feeds the AI's mind. And this is what's known as data poisoning. It's basically the digital version of slipping something nasty into the water supply. An attacker secretly taints the data an AI is learning from, and their goal is either to just break the model or, and this is way more sinister, to build in a hidden backdoor that they can use later on. I love this way of thinking about it. Imagine an AI is learning to cook by reading a recipe book. Now, what if someone went through that book and secretly changed a pinch of salt to a cup of salt in every single recipe? Well, the final dishes are going to be an absolute disaster. That's data poisoning. The final result is just fundamentally broken because the source material was compromised. So how in the world do you stop this? You protect that recipe book at all costs by locking down the entire data pipeline. It starts with making sure your data sources are legit through authentication. Then you have to constantly check for data quality. Then you lock the data down with encryption as it moves around. And finally, you have really strict rules for how you get rid of it securely. Every single step has to be guarded. But what if the data is totally clean? What if the AI is already trained and out in the world? Well, attackers have another, even sneakier trick up their sleeve. They go after the AI's brain itself.
These are called adversarial attacks, and they are wild. An attacker makes these tiny, almost imperceptible changes to an input, like changing just a few pixels in a photo. To you and me, it looks exactly the same, but to the AI, that tiny little change is enough to make it see a cat instead of a dog, or maybe even a stop sign as a speed limit sign.
And the effect? Wow, it can be absolutely devastating. Just look at this. Under normal conditions, this model is 99% accurate. Super reliable, right? But when it gets hit with one of these carefully designed adversarial inputs, its accuracy just plummets to 15%. So think about that. A world-class AI can be rendered practically useless by a threat you literally can't even see.
The defense here is all about building a more resilient, kind of street-smart AI. You can use something called adversarial training. It's basically like putting the AI in a sparring ring, showing it all these trick inputs so it learns to recognize them. You can also sanitize inputs to filter out anything suspicious, or you can use ensemble methods. Think of this as getting a second or third opinion. You have multiple AIs all vote on the answer, which makes it way harder to fool the whole group.
Protecting an AI isn't something you do just once. It is not set it and forget it. The threats are always evolving, which means the defense has to be this continuous, never-ending watch.
A really strong security program is like a living thing. It has this rhythm, this cycle of vigilance that scales up over time. It starts with automated daily monitoring, just looking for anything unusual. That then feeds into weekly human assessments of logs and any new threats. From there, you've got monthly risk evaluations, and it all culminates in a full strategic review of the entire program every single quarter. It just never stops.
But all this monitoring, all these technical fixes, they don't mean much without clear rules. So let's zoom out a bit for the bigger picture. This isn't just a tech problem, right? It's a governance problem. How do we make sure AI is used responsibly and fairly?
And this is where we get into measuring abstract ideas, like fairness, with actual hard numbers. For example, if an AI is approving loans, a governance rule might say that its approval rate for different demographic groups can't vary by more than 5%. This turns fairness from just a nice idea into a measurable, enforceable requirement to fight bias.
And for transparency, the standard is even higher. For those really high-stakes decisions, we're talking medicine or finance, the requirement is 100% explainability. The AI can't just say no, it has to show its work. And that kind of transparency is what makes real accountability possible.
As this quote from our source material makes crystal clear, the stakes are only getting higher. When AI is running our power grids, our financial markets, our transportation systems, a security failure isn't just an inconvenience, it's a potential catastrophe. Which, of course, leaves us with the big question for the future. We are in this constant, high-speed race between the incredible evolution of AI's capabilities and our ability to actually secure them. The mind is learning faster than ever before, and protecting it is the challenge that will define the next decade of technology.